Hi. So today we're doing a video a little different than what we usually do. I wanted to kind of have like just a conversation like we typically would, but this time around I brought in my twin brother Brandon and we just wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed Mirage. It came out, this time of recording, it came out roughly a few weeks ago, maybe a little less than that, but we both have finished the game. We had thoughts. We're both very old fans of the franchise, but yeah, so we just wanted to talk about it. We just wrapped up filming that, so I just wanted to do a little intro. I will warn you now, this is a rather long conversation, and not only that, but we will be getting into details that are later in the game, so if you're someone who doesn't want to be spoiled, feel free to play the game and come back and watch this and join in on the conversation. If you're just putting this on in the background, that's still fine, but I appreciate you for coming in and seeing what this is all about. So yeah, let's get into it. How are you?
You know what? I'm not too bad. Things are steady here so far. I've been playing a lot of video games, specifically Assassin's Creed and Spider-Man.
Right.
Raising children. It's always the most fun thing in the world. And I just recently got a job.
That's exciting.
Very exciting.
I wish I could say the same. I'm technically employed, but
yes, but to a
sucks.
shitty employer.
It sucks. It really sucks. So, everyone, today, as you know, we are going to be talking about the newest and recent release of Assassin's Creed, specifically Assassin's Creed Mirage. This is more of a retrospective of Assassin's Creed in general, because we will not only be talking about Mirage, but kind of how it falls in place with what people were asking for and what us original fans were expecting, so on and so forth, how it compares to the other games. I could go on. So I do want to just ask in general. I mean, we will be getting to other sections such as gameplay, story, more divided and more thorough. But just in general, what are your thoughts of the game?
So far, I would give this game, Assassin's Creed Mirage, like an 8.7 out of 10.
8.7, okay.
Yes. So overall, I genuinely do enjoy the game. Especially way more compared to the two previous Assassin's Creed installments. But sure, there are things that I have like my critiques about the game, especially being as much of an Assassin's Creed fan as I am, because growing up it was my number one favorite video game franchise of all time. So I'm definitely picky, but yeah, but overall I am enjoying the game.
It's good to hear. I also enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I was similar to you. I mean, sort of similar. I actually did, to a degree, tried to find like the enjoyment out of both Odyssey and Valhalla. There are things to be enjoyed. They're big games that offer a lot.
Right.
But they're not, in terms of like Assassin's Creed games, I could say I didn't enjoy them as much because they're not Assassin's Creed games. At least that's the way I see it. You can try to explain it all to hell, but they're not Assassin's Creed games. It's just not it. Granted, there are things in the lore, which we're going to get into all this, but there are things in the lore that you could say, oh, well, if you think about what's really going on and like how the more mythological stuff ties into the Isu, sure, it makes sense.
Right.
But it doesn't make enough of an excuse to say, oh, these are Assassin's Creed games. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But, so to get into it, so first we're going to just talk about, we're going to ease into the more interesting things, I would say. But we're going to just start off with the gameplay, because I feel like the gameplay is kind of more in tune with what a general idea of returning to the roots of Assassin's Creed would entail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stepping away from the RPG aspect of Assassin's Creed and going more to the streamlined stealth-based Assassin's Creed game, like the olden days and what everyone had been asking for. But it's a question of whether or not they achieved that.
Right.
I would say that to the most minimum degree, they did. They did achieve the stealth-based Assassin's Creed game. And they did a good enough job stepping away from the RPG element. My biggest gripe, before I get into the more specific pros and cons, or things that I liked or things that I didn't like, is that there were still too many recycled elements of the RPG games thrown into this streamlined stealth game.
Right.
And also, before we get into anything, another big thing that a lot of people were kind of, there's like a misconception about this game, because whilst this is a main title Assassin's Creed game, it's not a AAA title Assassin's Creed game. This, kind of like how Chronicles was a AA Assassin's Creed game, it's kind of like not necessarily a spin-off, but it's not in the big spotlight of Assassin's Creed. Same thing with like Assassin's Creed Rogue, or something like Freedom Cry, even though that was a DLC. Some still consider that to be like a legitimate installment to Assassin's Creed.
Right.
But yes, Assassin's Creed Mirage is technically a AA title. So it's not like a flagship Assassin's Creed game. Also, I have in my notes a random little fact that I wanted to throw in there. I don't know if this is like, because I'm not entirely sure how other people played or how difficult the game was for them. So I don't know if this is like I'm kind of tapping myself on the shoulder, or if this is just something more towards the game itself. But throughout the entirety of my time playing the game, I did not die. Okay, I died once throughout the entirety of my time playing the game, but it was on purpose. I purposefully died so that I could reset a mission. But aside from that one death,
why didn't you just load from the last checkpoint?
Because sometimes it still has the same loading that the previous games had, so I wasn't sure if it had autosaved or not. So in the moment, I was thinking like, oh, maybe if I die, the game will like, I don't know how to explain it, but I just know for a fact that it was a moment that I did it on purpose, but I did not die any other time throughout my time playing the game. So again, I don't know if that's me being like, thank you, or if it's the game's that easy,
I died twice.
Okay.
The first time that I died, sorry, real quick, if you hear background noise, I apologize. It's a full house. Anyways, I died twice. The first time was, when the meter, I forgot what the meter's called. The one that first it's like people are looking for you, then they put archers on the roof.
Oh, the notoriety thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first time that I died is, not the first time that I encountered the mercenary that they send after you when it's full, but the second time they sent one after me, only because he caught me off guard. He like came out of nowhere, kicked my ass, end of story. The second time was because I jumped off of a roof that was a little too high.
Oh.
Yeah. I was aiming for the haystack, but something that really pisses me off about the newer generation of Assassin's Creed games is sometimes they're less forgiving when it comes to you aiming for... It's weird. Sometimes it goes back and forth. Sometimes I'm not aiming for it, and then somehow I still get into the haystack. Or I'm not aiming for the I am aiming for the haystack, but my character decides to jump that way. And...
That feels more nostalgic to an old Assassin's Creed game. You not having control of where you actually want to run to, and then he's like...
Right. Yeah. So, but aside from that, I've only... So, technically, I guess if you want to say, aside from the mistake that I made, I only died once. But I had the game on normal difficulty because I kind of wanted it to be balanced for my first experience to see, like, how it played and everything, which I think was a good choice. But even on normal difficulty, I feel like there were parts that were way more challenging than they needed to be.
I probably should have... Oh, sorry. I probably should have said that too. I did play on... I don't play on easy. That's just not how we roll here. But... Sorry, continue what you were saying.
There was just, like, for the things that were more difficult than they should have been, it was for, like, very small things. Like, there's a certain boss fight, which I'm sure we may or may not discuss, but,
you can get into this is a spoiler full. Like, we're going into everything.
Okay, well, at the end of the game, when you face Basim's mentor, I'm not good with names, people,
Rashawn?
so give me a break. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you face her, he tells you, like, oh, I need to aim for her shoulder because it's weak. I don't know about you. I did that. That fight took me way too long because I aimed for her shoulder a lot. And then I was like, oh, well, nothing's working, so I'm going to restart the mission. And then I continued to do it, and then it worked. But
honestly, I don't remember that being an aspect of that fight. Because I got
he says, he's like, her shoulder's weak. I'm going to aim for it with my throwing blades. And that's why she keeps throwing an infinite amount of throwing blades so that you don't run out.
No, I think I started... I mean, I did recognize, like... Yeah, I think I just picked up on it without hearing the context of that section, I guess. Because I did try to run at her a couple times. Nothing was working. I threw a couple blades from a distance. She went down. I attacked her, and that was it. That was the end of the fight. I got through it relatively quick.
For me, I continuously, like, I'm throwing it at her shoulder. I'm throwing it at her shoulder. I don't know what else you want from me. Right. And then, just to make sure, I looked it up. I looked up the fight. Like, I paused it. I said, fuck this. I looked it up. And I was doing it right. And the person I was watching did it in 3 throws, and she was down.
Right.
So I was like, okay.
It didn't take me long at all.
Yeah, so then I tried it again. And then it worked. And I'm like, I did nothing different. Why?
Right. And the only reason I brought up the whole difficulty thing is because I remember in Odyssey, which Brandon knows this, took me 3 years to 100% of that game. From the
what
time...
What was the year gap between Odyssey and Valhalla?
Not long. After...
Because wasn't Valhalla coming out when you beat the game?
Something like that, because I want to say Yeah, we might have to pull up the dates here, but
I'll look it up. But you continue saying what you're saying.
yeah. So obviously there was a gap in between the releases of all of the expansions and stuff for Odyssey, but from the time it released in October of 2017, for the next 3 years, I was playing. In between other games, of course, I was still playing Odyssey. Finally, 100% of the game with all of the expansions, and then Valhalla comes out, and I had to do that shit all over again.
Oh, okay. So Odyssey came out in 2018, and Valhalla came out. And Valhalla came out 2020. So it's only a 2-year gap. But I remember specifically.
Was it 2018?
Yeah, I remember you specifically not playing Valhalla until you beat Odyssey.
Right, because I wanted to make sure there wasn't any story things that I missed.
So rather no, you pre-ordered the game because
I did.
You
Maybe it was just 2 years. It felt like 3 though.
Maybe, but either way, he still waited to play Valhalla. So even if he had it in his possession, he's like, I ain't playing it until I beat this game, which was ridiculous. Well, I have my own personal opinions about Odyssey, but
I mean, as a longtime Assassin's Creed fan, I regardless of how much it's changed, they do throw in hidden little details here and there, and especially lore related details. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing out on anything going into Valhalla, which by the way, I truly believe you could play the entirety of the Assassin's Creed franchise without playing Odyssey. Yeah. As long as you don't play any of the expansions to Valhalla, you could play Odyssey without that really meaning anything, because the biggest connection between Odyssey and the other Assassin's Creed games is Cassandra is a very close ancestor to, what was her name? From Assassin's Creed Origins?
Didn't she have 2 names?
Well, yeah, she starts as
That's what always messes me up, is because she has 2 names.
Because she ends up renaming herself to the Serpent Assassin. That's referenced in Assassin's Creed 2.
Aya of Alexandria.
Right, and then she changes her name.
Amunet.
Yep.
That shit's annoying.
But anyways, and then aside from that, the other big relation is just a quick little crossover between Cassandra and Ivor in one of the expansions of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But again,
I'm going to cut you off real quick. It's pronounced Eivor.
What did I say?
Ivor.
I do keep saying Ivor. I don't know why.
I wanted to correct you. So Aaron and I had a phone call conversation not too long ago about when we both first got the game. And Aaron did it. He's like, Ivor. And I'm like, it's Eivor. And I know it's not a big deal.
Eivor. I know.
A lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, who gives a fuck how it's pronounced. I do. Because it's not Dark Seed. It's Dark Side. It's not Raz Al Ghul. It's rather Raz Al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul. Both are allowed. But
No, I totally agree with you. Someone even recently, I was watching a video, and they kept pronouncing Ezio as Ezio Auditore. And I was like, no, it's Ezio Auditore da Firenze.
Yeah, when the source material says it a certain way, just follow it.
Like a gajillion times throughout the entirety of the franchise.
There's a couple other examples that came to mind when I was thinking of that, but
No, you're right. It's Eivor. It's not Ivor. But truth be told, 5-10 years from now, Eivor is not going to be a super memorable character to me anyway.
True.
If I'm completely frank, Cassandra's not all that interesting. I think the Alexios version, or at least the performance of the character from Alexios, was more interesting. I've seen like comparisons, and especially like the death of Phoebe to me was more punchy with the performance of Alexios. I don't know if anyone's going to dislike me for that, but just personal preference. I also played as Alexios, so you know, a little bit biased.
I played as Cassandra, and there were a few times where I was like, oh, yeah, she kind of seems a little robotic. I will say she did have good moments. But there again, I think it's like part of canon. Like if you're looking at just like the pure
Cassandra
Assassin's Creed
is
timeline,
the canon.
she's
version.
the main one,
right?
Right, and then Alexios is the leader of the
who becomes Deimos
cult thing. Right. That's another thing. Okay. They really got lazy for both, so even though I personally love Origins, but they did the same thing that they did with Origins for Odyssey, Valhalla, and Mirage. The bad guys, they're all like an order or a cult or like people with masks.
Well, the Order of the Ancients.
Right. But it just, okay, I guess this is a little hypocritical because in the past games it's like, oh, the villains are always Templars. But for some reason I got really annoyed how in every single game it was the Order of the Ancients. I don't know why. I was like, oh, it's another cult with another group of like interesting masks. And I don't know why I didn't care for it that much. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, Templars were being like overused, but I don't know. I feel like you can use Templars just as much as you can use Assassins.
Right.
But anyways.
Well, there is an explanation to that. I mean, the Order of the Ancients was like the original. It's like where the Templars come from.
Right.
And I'm totally blanking on what the cult was that Deimos led. It was like,
I didn't care much for the game to remember
yeah,
details.
Okay, but again, we are stepping more into the lore aspect. I do want to focus on gameplay to start off with.
Right. Sorry.
It's fine. This is probably going to be a long video. I'm going to have so much fun editing this. Something in terms of gameplay that I do want to talk about is just getting out of the way some like things we do and don't like. We'll start with things we didn't like.
Okay.
I have a list here. I don't know if you have anything particularly in mind. But the first thing I wanted to just throw out there, it's a very small little nitpick, but I thought it was just so lazy, is he bare hands the zip line. What?
Yeah.
What is that? After like the first or second zip line, the skin on his hands would be gone.
That's been a thing since Origins.
No, in Odyssey, in Odyssey he used the spear, and in Valhalla he used the tomahawk.
Right.
They didn't.
But in Origins.
Okay, in Origins they did that, but which is still lazy.
Right.
But they couldn't.
Yeah,
he couldn't like use a stick or even. No, I guess he couldn't use his sword. But I don't know, anything. A belt.
I don't know.
I just thought
that's kind of weird.
Like I kind of cringed a little bit every time I went down the zip line. I was like, his hands are bare. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. I know there's a lot of things in Assassin's Creed like you can't do the leap of faith. You can't jump into a hay barrel like from the top of a building.
That's what non-believers think. No, I'm just kidding.
You want to go ahead and try?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing is, even though I did state that this is a AA title game, Ubisoft is no stranger to having like good graphics in their games. They've done performance capture before. They've made characters look realistic before. I mean, even though Unity isn't like top-notch graphics, they still had pretty decent performance capture. And I know that is comparing a AAA title Assassin's Creed game, but this isn't an RPG. They could have easily had actors. I don't know if easily would be a good word to use, but I don't see why they couldn't do the again, it's not an RPG game. So why do we still have that recycled robotic set of characters that have bland expressions?
I don't know. That's something that's been going through my mind for a while. So like things like textures, they've like obviously improved on, because like Mirage, there's a lot of like, if you wear the Ezio outfit, the Revelations outfit, and you look at like his shoulder plate, which is just an example, but it looks like really clean metal with multiple layers. Like the plate itself, and then the designs is an extra layer. Like it looks really good. It reflects very well. The texture's great. But then the people look like garbage.
Right.
And like you're right, like Assassin's Creed Unity, it's kind of hard to compare, but they're like, the whole point of like progression is to progress, not to like pause effort on one thing and then cover it with other things. Like they added motion blur to kind of make it look a little bit more stylish, and then the textures are nice, cool,
but then the people still look
like you're just covering up garbage, and it really ruins everything, because like all other franchises are looking great. They're going up. Like for example, Spider-Man. I'm not going to talk too much about Spider-Man obviously, but like the textures, the graphics, they look great. Uncharted, for example, Uncharted 4.
Well, there is a big comparison thing there, because when you have a game that's like an exclusive, and
I know,
a publisher is specifically funding, they do tend to look better. But this is a AA title game that goes to all platforms and such.
But still,
you are right. Like
they could try harder, because there are games that are older that had rather the same amount or more that looked better than this game.
Right. The next thing that I didn't like, and just a quick note, this isn't going to be us just ragging on the game the whole time. We did enjoy the game. There will be good things we say. I'm just getting all the negative stuff out of the way. But another thing that I noticed throughout my time is that they really wanted to emphasize that Basim was like the fastest assassin, or that he moved really fast. And I'm actually not even going to get into the whole teleporting thing, because the thing's been talked about way too much. I don't care for it. I didn't use it at all. And I know what they're...
You went through the whole game not using it?
I mean, only the time that they told me to use it. But that was it. Because it's like part of the game. But it takes me out of the experience. I didn't want to use it at all. And if I wasn't able to make it through the game, the whole point was I just wanted to be able to make it through the game without having to use it. There were some times when I was like, it would really help, and then it's kind of like, no, I've gone this far without doing it. I'll just keep going. But anyway, that's actually not the thing I have an issue with. Even with him being the fastest, they did make him move a little faster. They did rework the parkour a little bit so that he seemed quick and agile. But the problem is even though he was fast and he did move swiftly and such, the response time from like the controller to him seemed kind of lacking a little
That
bit.
okay.
Like there would be times when I would command him to do something, and it would take a good couple milliseconds for him to do it. Or
I thought that was just me.
Or there'd be times where like he couldn't even keep up with me. Like there would be times when I'd be moving around really quick and I would approach someone to assassinate them, but it would take the game just a little too long to bring up the assassination prompt, and I would click the button and he'd end up swinging at them. And I was like, "No,
Yeah.
we're stealthing through this."
Right. Dude, okay. So first off, the lagging thing happened to me. I thought I was nuts. I'm like, this is the first Assassin's Creed game that I've played on PlayStation. It is that why? I don't know. But so yes, I had that issue when it came to, so I'm going to talk about it. The teleporting thing.
Okay.
First off, the idea of it, garbage. Second, a little hypocritical, but I did use it, but not for stealth. I actually used it for like, so in a situation to where like I didn't want to get caught, but then I did get caught, or like I had like run away from a group of guys and there's just a bunch approaching me, I'd use it on them right before their like alert thing happens. And then
That makes sense. You just want to. You don't want to have to start all over again. You're just like, no, we're doing this stealth. Just get the guy out of the way.
Or like I don't want to raise the alarms too much, so I can kind of like continue what I was doing, and I don't have to start over. Because for me, when I'm doing stealth games and I fuck up, I start it over. I don't tolerate any mistakes. I need to be able to go through the whole thing without being caught.
Right.
So rather, one, I'll use the focus to kind of like cheat my way through it, or two, I start over. But aside from that, I did not use it because I did not like it, and I thought that if I couldn't get through stealth thing without using it, or if I couldn't do it without using it, I'm not a true assassin.
Right. And so I guess if we are talking about it, you know, they have over-explained this. They have tried to state that Basim moves so fast that the Animus can't keep up with him, I guess, is like the easiest way to put it. So it has like this glitching effect, but it doesn't explain how you can like teleport to someone over like a large gap of buildings or something, you know? Or like how there could be a spiked fence in between you and you teleport and you assassinate them.
That's okay. There was one mission towards the end of the game where it needed me to get into a fortress, but I didn't know how to get into the fortress. And I might have missed it, but I was like, I don't know how to get in.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
There's nothing to climb, but I saw a guy, like an archer, on the thing that like stuck out, like a little balcony, and I'm like, I could just use the focus to like teleport up there,
right,
and then I kind of like cheat the system. So I did use it then. But I really want to replay the game to see, one, if I could play the entire game without using it, and two, if I can figure out how to get into that fortress without using it, because I have no idea how to get in there.
I do know which fortress you're talking about, and it is something just as simple as you go around, even though it's rather large, you just go around it, and there is like a little gap that you can just climb on into. So I have a couple other small little nitpicks. The first nitpick is switching between throwables. It's kind of part of the whole the game can't keep up with me, because I get into a rhythm and I can like scope out an area. Stealth games are my jam. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are like, no, it takes too much time. I like the steady pace. I like being able to strategize, you know.
So they don't have any patience, losers.
I mean, at least in my experience, when I talk to someone who doesn't like a stealth game, that's what it is. It takes too long. They don't have the patience for it, whatever it may be. It might just be some people like a faster pace, or they like more action. That's fine. But I do like the pace. I like being able to go not guns blazing, or
From my oh,
oh, I was just gonna say, but in terms of so what I meant by switching between throwables is the thing that I probably used the most was the throwing blades or the throwing knives. But there'd be times when I would want to switch like to the smoke bomb or the noisemaker, or sometimes I would want to like access one of those things in like a fast-paced situation. And there are like quick triggers for it, but sometimes it wouldn't work, so you'd have to like manually hold the trigger, select it, and then throw it, even though it's in a fast-paced situation. So it's just part of the game not totally keeping up with me. But yeah, so that, I feel like maybe it's just something that can be fixed in a patch or something, but it's really just the responsiveness of being able to switch between things.
So first off, with the comment of people who don't like stealth-based games, from experience of playing a lot of stealth-based games, if it's taking you too long to do the stealth-based portions, you're not good at it. Because I can do depending on the game, I can do a stealth-based mission and just like fly by. Easy peasy, let them squeeze me. But as far as like the throwables and everything, I miss the Actually, my favorite version of like the weapon selection was, I don't know if it started with Assassin's Creed 3, but what comes to mind is in Black Flag when you had like the cross that had like the few items
it
up
looked
here.
a little it looked a little different, but it technically started with Assassin's Creed 3, and it was a very unique look to it. But in Black Flag and Rogue, they kind of simplified it in like a T shape.
That was my favorite version of it. I felt like it was easy to do. Once you get everything laid out, you can easily just like click, access, do it, what have you.
Like, it is nice to have like quick triggers if you're in a situation where you want to like throw a smoke bomb like while running away from people. That's fine.
Yeah, but the quick trigger thing that it had at the bottom left never worked for me.
Yeah, I think it worked for me maybe once or twice, but any other time I found myself needing to do it, I had to do it manually, and it was rather frustrating.
Right.
And the last thing I would like to nitpick, and I know this is I know to some people this might be like, oh, you're ragging on the game too much, because there's kind of this whole thing about not being able to satisfy Assassin's Creed fans, because even though this is a return to the roots, it's not exactly what we meant. But in this particular thing that I wanted to point out is, in the main story, you end up approaching like these, like the Order of the Ancients assassinations, where it gives you like different assassination opportunities, so on and so forth. In my opinion, they hold your hand a little too much, and the reason I say that is because as soon as the mission starts, even though it'll give you a list of all these different assassination opportunities you can do, at least right away they'll put like 2 of them right in front of you. Like, as soon as you put on your eagle vision or you have your eagle fly above, they put them like right in front of you. And I feel like it doesn't give the player any incentive to scope out the environment. They just see the opportunity and they're like, okay, there it is. That's how I have to start this mission out. When I feel like, I think Assassin's Creed Syndicate did it the best, where it forces you to go into the area, the restricted area, the fortress, whatever it may be, have you like analyze the situation a little bit, and then they start opening up to you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, even in Assassin's Creed Unity, they like, sometimes they'll give you like a preview of certain things that are going on that it's like, I could use that as like an opportunity.
Right.
But the only difference is that Rather, one, there were certain things you had to do, like a step-by-step thing to get to those scenarios or to make them functional. Or two, you had to go look for them, which isn't always so easy because you have to get past guards and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But I do agree. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, it was rather right there in front of you. It was too easy to do. I felt like it was more challenging to not use those opportunities. Like, it didn't feel special or any kind of, like, doing, like, a very important espionage type situation, like in Unity or what have you. It was just very simple. Or sometimes it would say that I have options, but then I'd look for them and I'm like, I'm confused. I don't know where these are or how to get to them. So...
but those were probably like my biggest nitpicks. I'm sure that if I sat down and I really thought about it, or if I was like playing through the game, I could point out a couple things. But those are the ones that stood out to me the most. So I want to move into the things that I did like about the gameplay. Okay. Even though I talked about how with the throwables, I was having more of an issue with like responsiveness.
Right.
What I do like, not only when it comes to things like item selection, but just the menus, or I guess like his item selection in general. It was very pulled back a little bit. It wasn't like ridiculously complicated. I liked, instead of customizing the gear and I remember a long time ago, we kind of wanted more of like being able to switch out different pieces of gear.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, I kind of just like being able to put on a different outfit.
Yeah.
And not have to worry so much about like how it affected the stats and stuff. I kind of just wanted to wear different outfits. And in this game, they did kind of do that, but they did it more in the sense of just each outfit has like a particular perk.
Right.
And then you have like the transmog in case you like a particular outfit more than another, and you can still like
what
they refer to it as a costume.
Right.
Yeah.
That is something that it's not necessarily like them having the costume doesn't make sense to me. Is their selection of what counts as a costume and what doesn't count as a costume. So for the Ezio and the Altair costume, like that's what they are, costumes. But then the hidden one outfit, which is just Bayek's outfit from the DLC of Assassin's Creed Origins,
right,
is considered an outfit, not a costume.
Right, it's like something you can find in a chest somewhere.
Right. And then they have another costume that you can get that looks along the same lines as something you'd get as an outfit. So, like, a couple of them should have been swapped. Like, some of them should have counted as a costume. Some of them should have been an outfit.
Right.
But what...
Even if I remember correctly, his Master Assassin outfit that you unlock towards the end of the game...
is a costume.
Ends up being a costume, and it's not an outfit.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't know, who was like, oh, okay, cool. Costume. Outfit, and then someone in the back's going, shouldn't that be an outfit? You're fired. Like,
you're fired. It's almost like they had like a limited amount of slots, and they had all of these different cards with like the different outfits, and they were like,
easy.
Okay, well this is filled. Just throw the rest of them in the costumes. That's fine.
Right, but
they won't tell.
Even if that was the case, they could have just like swapped a couple of them and.
Or they could have made everything a transmog so that you can have like the perk of one outfit,
but the look of another.
And just choose right, like how the first Spider-Man PS4 game does it. Like you can unlock a suit and it's suit power, but apply it to a different suit.
Right.
So yeah, it is rather strange, but I do. My point was that. I do like the simplified, like just being able to be like, oh, I just want to wear this outfit.
Right.
That's it. And it doesn't debunk anything, or it doesn't punish you in any way for choosing a particular outfit. It's rather you choose an outfit because you like the way it looks, or it has a particular perk that you like. That's pretty much it.
So this is going to be a topic that we'll have for a different video, but it still applies to this one. There's selection for outfits. It's...
Oh, you mean like the choices that you have?
Yeah, it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I'm going to throw this out there real quick. Bassam's initial outfit for the game, whatever, I don't know what they called it. I didn't use it. I hated it.
It was the something initiate.
Right, but the thing that's on the case and what was like advertised, it sucks. I think it's ugly, and I'm not referring to like the fact that it's like based on a specific culture. No, it's just ugly.
I just found it rather bulky.
Yeah.
Like when he was wearing it, he looks very wide. Like it makes his head look really wide, like just silhouette wise.
Yeah.
Like it looks like he's got like he's like a dome.
But then he has a
almost.
really tiny face.
It's like I can make an exception because he's got like a headpiece under the hood, which is, I understand that, but it doesn't explain why the rest of him seems... It almost looks like something you would wear in like the snow.
Yeah.
He just looked very covered and like cozy. Whilst the Master Assassin, I feel like, is the look they should have been going for. His Master Assassin
outfit. That outfit, especially for how bland it is, because that outfit has nothing that's like remotely close to like what you would consider a Master Assassin. Every Master Assassin in the whole franchise has had some really sick outfit. That's like, that's a Master Assassin. Easy. Right. But no, it was bland. It was boring. There was nothing interesting about it. Like, sure, it had a shoulder pad. That outfit should have been used as the initiate outfit. And then something that looks like that, but with more integrated designs in the hood and more padding and more decorations. Then you could have a Master Assassin outfit. But it was just boring. And then even the ones that you can unlock, I used the hidden one outfit the whole time. You know, the Bayek one, the one that looks like an Assassin's Creed outfit. I used that the entire time, and I unlocked a lot of them, but I didn't really care for them.
Yeah, I think I want to say I unlocked all of the outfits that there were to unlock, including the costumes. But the one that I still ended up going to, I did splurge a little. I spent what, $5-6 on the Master Assassins pack.
I wanted to so
where
bad.
all of the master outfits, and they were like black with the golden trim. I did splurge and I got that, and I used his Master Assassin's outfit because even though we were saying it's rather bland in the game, the all black, it has like a different texture and pattern at the top, and
no, it looks
it's got
really
like the golden
good.
beak. Yeah, and I do like the slimmer look, but it looks better that way. And that's what I used for a majority of my gameplay.
Something else that I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it's been an issue for me for maybe it's just this game. But so like they obviously have different different types of hoods in this game. They have some that cover another item, like the headband, and then they have some that's just a beak. But when it's just a beak, or if it's just like a normal hood, it's one of two things. Rather, one, it covers a lot of the face like it's supposed to, or it's just like this big opening that just rests on his head, and it's really boring. And they did that to the Ezio outfit. If you look at Altair's, you know, it's like not much. It's just a small opening, but it still looks sick. The hidden one outfit covers...
And it comes out really far.
Right, and the hidden one outfit covers a lot of his face. The beak comes down. He looks like an assassin. It looks cool. Then the Ezio one. Out of all the outfits, the Ezio one is the one where they got real lazy on the hood. And it just like...
I think it's because...
It's really wide, and it's just like... It doesn't look like Ezio. Everything from the neck down looks good, but the hood looks like garbage.
I think they were aiming for that really open, like triangular shape that Ezio's hood has, but it only works like it was designed for Ezio. It frames his head right,
but like,
but it all in the game, like you're talking about, it has like this really big. It looks just very open.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to just like sit on his head. The hood is supposed to like shape around the dome, and then it's supposed to come down, like here,
and like cover the front of his
right.
face.
That one is like this, and it like points outward, and it looks dorky.
No, I definitely agree with that. Another thing that I did like, just moving on with the conversation. Right. Another thing that I did like, in spite of the fact that it was rather unresponsive, I did like the parkour.
Yeah.
It's not something totally innovative. It's not something like I think someone mentioned that they did like a new thing, but it's not all that different. It's kind of like a very in-between blend of like Unities and Syndicates and Valhallas. You know, it's nothing new. They kind of just like refreshed their previous formula, but it still was clean, and he moved very quick, and you know, it still looked good.
I would say, so yes, I did like the parkour, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, and you probably will too, but it was advertised to be like a brand new parkour that's inspired off of recent games. But I just recently replayed Assassin's Creed Origins, just like a few minutes of it. The parkour is identical to a T.
Yeah.
There's literally no differences, and they said that they inspired parkour from Unity. First off, the descend option in Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Did that not work for you? In Mirage, like every time I tried to do like the descend thing, he just like drops.
Same.
He doesn't climb down. He just
It was
drops.
one of a couple things. It was rather one, you were low enough to the ground to where he would just like leap off it, whatever. Or he was a little higher and he like hangs and then drops. But in the older games, depending on the game, rather one, you let go and he instantly grabs onto the next thing, or you have to like press a button to like make him like grab onto it. But Unity, the game they claim that they inspired it off of, there was a whole...
Has like a whole descend function.
Yeah.
Where he like climbs
and it
down.
could rather work as if like you're going diagonal or straight down. And it worked beautifully. You couldn't do that at all in this game.
At least I couldn't figure out how to do it. Every time I tried to replicate like the same way I've done it in all the other games.
I just don't know where the Unity thing comes from, because the only game I see any resemblance to is Origins. Like, as far as like how the city is laid out, you can compare it to the older, like the Ezio games, but the way he moves and the way he does everything is just Origins.
Right. So. And we did talk about the game a little bit while we were each maybe like halfway through the game. But one thing we both brought up, actually I think you brought it up, was the game kind of punishes you for not being stealthy.
Right.
And I actually like
Me
that
too.
Because Assassin's Creed, especially if you're trying to like emphasize going back to a stealth style, you kind of want the player to be more focused on being stealthy.
Right.
So, I mean, while you could take on like a group of guys, if it's more than 2 or 3 people, you kind of have to run. You know, it's really difficult to take on that many guys. Yeah. Unless you use the focus. Yeah, so I kind of appreciate that in a game, because there are some games where it's kind of the other way around, where like it gives you a stealth option, but whenever you try to do the stealth option, you kind of get overwhelmed.
Right.
And sometimes you get ganged up on by a bunch of like enemy NPCs.
Yeah.
But this game, which it's not like it's nothing new, but for Assassin's Creed, it was kind of refreshing to be able to hone in more on the stealth aspect of the gameplay.
Right. Which it's kind of interesting, because as much as I love the older games, the older games from like Assassin's Creed, actually maybe even the first one, from the first game all the way up to the colonial ones, the combat was easy, because all you had to do was just wait for someone to attack you, press the counter button, and then they die. Easy. Right. Like super easy. aside from every now and then you encounter someone who rather has a long range weapon, which can get annoying, or like a brute. But aside from that, like, it was pretty simple. Assassin's Creed Unity, it got a little more challenging. Syndicate was just button mashing, so you're just like pressing it over and over and just punching the shit out of people. I really liked the combat for Origins, and I didn't mind it for Valhalla, but for this one, yeah, they really were like, oh, we really want you to be stealthy. So if you do decide to get in a fight, you're kind of screwed because your hits don't do much and their hits do a lot, which is nice. And weirdly enough, like, I prefer that more over the original games where it was like, oh, I'm not afraid to get into a fight because it'll be super easy. No, like, I would much rather be like, I'm super good at stealth. And if I swear to God, if someone catches me, I'm restarting this because I do not want to get into a fight. I prefer that.
The next thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is a rather big thing for Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed fans, and it's something that's been kind of high on like the debate of Assassin's Creed and its quality over the years. So the next thing that I want to move on to, and it's a rather big thing to the Assassin's Creed franchise and the community. Community.
You're saying you're, yeah. You're saying you're right.
But that's the modern aspect of the game.
Okay.
It has been in debate for a long time. There are some people that are like, no, like, don't really care about the modern day stuff, and then there's some Assassin's Creed fans that are like, no, like, it's so important that we have it. But those people are more in tune with when Desmond was around, because that's like where it all started. But as soon as Desmond died and we got the Abstergo worker that we had in Black Flag and Rogue, which apparently was two different people. I'm totally blanking on her name. The girl from all of the other previous games. I'm sure I'll put it up. Layla. That sounds right. I feel like this game proves why we need a modern day aspect to Assassin's Creed. And the reason I say that is because I do remember there was a point in time when someone was like, if you can't figure out the modern day thing, just don't do it. Like, just have the whole thing playing as an assassin, like from history, which I could understand, but I feel like the game feels so rushed in a way. Like, the modern day aspect, more specifically when Desmond was around, gave the game like a very specific kind of pacing that went from gameplay to lore and narrative related stuff. So it was an interesting and rather creative back and forth, at least in my opinion. And with that being said, and this is going to transition us into the story aspect of this conversation a little bit, I feel like a big thing that a lot of people overlook with the modern day aspect of Assassin's Creed, and it's kind of what builds up Assassin's Creed, at least for original fans, is Assassin's Creed used to be about knowledge and discovering the truth about the ones before and such. And with these previous games, especially Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, the fact that they tried to like use, or they made it to where the Isu were the original versions of like the Greek and Norse and Egyptian gods and stuff like that. The image of them being more like gods to characters like Cassandra and Eivor, while they were actually just like more evolved beings, if anything.
Right.
It kind of takes you away from the mystery. Like, I know they were trying to get to a point where they were like, this is what happened. But I feel like it works better when we were in the perspective of someone from modern day and they were the ones figuring it out.
Yeah.
And a great example would be, and I think, and it's the reason why it's one of my favorites of the Assassin's Creed franchise in general, is Brotherhood. I think Brotherhood is like the pinnacle of pacing for Assassin's Creed. It does a great job at establishing Ezio and all of like the main, like getting across like the main portion of the gameplay. And then when you get to Desmond, you have like a pretty decent amount of like moving around, traversal, implementing what he's learning from Ezio into the modern day gameplay, and like the whole bleeding effect thing, which I know they did do in 2 and Assassin's Creed 3, but I just think it works the best in Brotherhood. And there's still a huge thing about Desmond in the modern world learning from his ancestors about the Isu and the truth behind the Pieces of Eden, and using that against Abstergo and the Templars so that they don't get control over people's free will.
Right.
That's Assassin's Creed. That's the premise of it all. And when you take all of that away, putting the players in the perspective of a resurrected Isu, in this case Loki, as Basim, whilst they do explain and they do have a cutscene at the end of Valhalla showing that there was no Norse gods, they were just Isu, and they even have like the same white outfits that Adam and Eve did in Assassin's Creed 2, and they're like getting in their chairs and they put their DNA in these pods so that they can be resurrected somewhere in the future. Like, yes, like, whoa, that's crazy. I feel like that would have been really cool to find out as like Layla or a new modern day protagonist that you know, characters would get to know, and maybe unlike Layla and more like Desmond, they would make a new modern day protagonist who has like important ancestral people in history who, like Ezio and Altair, have to do with the Pieces of Eden. Or maybe these ones would have more direct ties with the resurrected Isu, and that would be like the next line. Would, instead of finding Pieces of Eden, they had to go find all of these resurrected Isu. Now that we're talking more about the story a little bit, because we will get more into that. Basim, whilst he was kind of painted as a very antagonistic character in Valhalla, and you do learn through like, you know, documents and stuff and a little bit from the character that he does have like good intention. Like, the reason he killed Heimdall is because, you know, he didn't want, you know, the resurrected version of Heimdall to like interfere with him finding his true love. That might, if you're an Assassin's Creed fan and you like totally miss that, it's really deep, and you have to like go find it in documents in the lore and read more about Basim. But in Valhalla, that was his whole thing. He's trying to like, at least Loki is trying to reconnect with his original love from the time before. And Mirage kind of shows Basim discovering who he really is. Like, that's the whole premise of like the third act of the game, is someone telling him that like he's more than just a person and he's more than just an assassin. But the reason I just brought him up more specifically is because I feel like he was more likable this time around. Whilst you and I did discuss, he has like, I'm not entirely sure I'm on board with the new voice that they chose. I do agree that, or I understand why they did the new voice, because they wanted something more in tune with like the culture and someone who pronounced the words properly.
Right.
And someone who apparently sounded younger, because according to the game, he's like in his early mid-20s, which is strange. I still kind of liked the Loki or Basim voice from Valhalla a little bit more.
Yeah.
That might just be our opinion, but it is what it is, I guess. At least this time around, I still found him to be a more enjoyable character. Obviously, you want him to be if he's going to be the person you're playing as throughout the entirety of the time. But there was a lot of moments I found like him conversating with people, and I just thought like, you know, he's very clever. He's like good at what he does. It shows. And and there were times when he was almost, I don't want to say flirtatious, but he's very charming at times, and it kind of was reminiscent of like Ezio when he was a more experienced assassin and he knew how to like talk his way through situations. So it was kind of refreshing to have a character like that again, aside from like, you know, Cassandra, who's just like angry the whole game, or Eivor, who's very monotone, no personality throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah. Honestly, I still got a large portion of what we like about the new Bassam in the old Bassam. Like, I still found him to be, well, before the end of the game, I still found him to be very humble, very experienced, very wise. Like, a lot of the times when Eivor wanted to be like, oh, I want to do this, and Bassam was like, true, but if you decided, like, if you were to ask me, I would say to do it this route, and he would say, like, oh, this is how the hidden ones would do it.
Right, because, like, this way or your way has, like, these repercussions while it's doing it, like, a hidden one. Like,
keeps peace and, like, structure and stuff like that, which was really cool. And then, obviously, at the end of the game, your opinion about him changes when he becomes a douche canoe. Aside from, like, the choice of the voice actor, I did like Bassam a lot. The whole, like, performance as far as, like, what you see for Bassam, if, back to what we were talking about earlier, if that looked better, I would have enjoyed it more.
Right, because there were cutscenes where, like, there is proper performance capture. That's, like, a common trend with these previous games. Like, there were, like, legitimate cutscenes, and it looks great.
Very and vague, or very, like, limited amount.
Right,
though.
And they're very brief, but they still look great. One that always comes to mind that always looks really good is in the original expansion of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, when you're introduced to the guy who wields, like, the first hidden blade. There's, like, the flashback scene where he assassinates, like, his lord.
Nothing. Your deaths mean nothing. The order cannot be stopped. Yet for all their power, they couldn't protect you. Not from me.
It's been a while since I've played the game, so
but I'll bring it up. King of Persia or something like that.
Yeah, but there's just so much expression in it. Like, even though it's a very short scene, it's very dynamic, and you feel a lot of personality.
Right.
Which is something I want to see more in these Assassin's Creed games, which I think it would pay off if they were to revert back to, and this actually kind of brings me to another point that just now thinking of is, I think I brought this up the last time we talked about this game, but I think that if they paused Assassin's Creed production for a little bit and they kind of, like, pulled back and they were just like, okay, forget, like, the whole 5 or 6 other games we're making. Let's get rid of most of them. Maybe pick, like, 1 or 2 other good ones to have, like, in the pipeline. I think a couple good ones would be the Project Red and the Project Hex. I think those specifically would be very interesting. I don't particularly care about Jade because it's a mobile game.
Yeah.
No one asked for another Assassin's Creed mobile game. If they just, like, the same way that Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and Revelations uses the first Assassin's Creed as, like, a baseline, and they build off of that to, like, make a polished game, use Mirage as the new baseline. Focus on stealth again. Improve the combat and some of the other, like, lackluster things about the game, and go from there. Forget the RPG stuff. No one wants the RPG Assassin's Creed game. Just stop. We don't want that. We want a structured narrative. We want an interesting and dynamic character. The graphics that we know Ubisoft can put out. I don't care about, like, choosing what the character is going to say, because it's history. It's supposed to have happened. You don't need to choose how history goes.
I never thought about that.
Right.
Interesting.
So, like, what's the point of, like, creating a character that's apparently, like, a historical, even though it's fictional, but choose, like, aspect? I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me.
One thing that I didn't test out is harming a civilian, because in older games, if you, like, let's say you were playing as Ezio and you'd kill someone, it would say Ezio didn't kill civilians. And
right.
then it would say
that actually did happen to me. And I can tell you, they do that. I accidentally harmed a civilian in the game. And it says that Basim does not harm civilians, and the continuation will result in desynchronization, just like all the other games. So
Nice.
they threw that in there. So continuing on, another thing about Basim that I wanted to point out that I did think was interesting in terms of like incorporating him being like a resurrected Isu was they kind of made him broken, if that makes any sense. The whole idea of like him hallucinating about the Jinni and it correlating with him, it's almost like he has like a fractured
mind,
right? And it plays for a more interesting like and different character, whilst we had Cassandra, who's supposed to be like the pinnacle of like what a descendant of an Isu looked like. Like wielding all these powers, being super strong and almost like a
very
super
like
soldier.
masculine woman.
Right. Whilst you have Basim, who's like the other end of the spectrum, like what could go wrong with a descendant or like a resurrected Isu almost.
Right.
And it plays for an interesting pacing and storytelling and such, which I also feel would pay off if they had a modern day person viewing this whole thing and being like, what the hell's going on with Basim? Like, yes, they do insinuate it a little bit with the beginning of the game, and you hear William Miles being like, oh, let's look into your history, blah, blah, blah. But that's it. That's the only time we hear anything from the modern day.
So to kind of shed light on a couple things that you've mentioned. So first off, as far as the modern day, like with this game, all they did was the intro to the game when you first start it. It's like Abstergo, and that's it. And then the quick mention of his speed. But so with Desmond, yes, like Desmond had purpose. Desmond had like, it was well thought out. It was new. People liked it, and they were so afraid to let it go that Ubisoft like had to stretch out the modern day as much as they could after Desmond died, continuing to run out of ideas. At first it was like, oh, I'm an Abstergo employee and I can just plug in some dead dude's blood into my computer and I can just like play video games while working. That was their job. That's a sick job, by the way. And then after that, they finally decided to bring back a modern day like character that has a name and you can play as, and no one cared about. She wasn't interesting as a character,
Unfortunately, yeah,
at all. Every single time that we had to play as her, it was rather brief, or you tried to get through it as fast as possible because you didn't want to play as her anymore. And they just tried really hard for the whole like another Desmond thing. I genuinely think they should just give it a break. Honestly, I could play an Assassin's Creed game now, and if you want to incorporate modern day, do what they did with Mirage, do the intro and that's it. But honestly, I could do without it. I don't care for the modern day anymore. Until they really come up with something new and fresh and engaging. Until that happens, I don't want anything. I don't care for anything.
So I kind of do have a counter argument to that, but I plan on bringing that up a little later. But with that in mind, just keep that in mind though. I do plan on coming back to that. Just another thing I wanted to wrap up before we get into that particular portion of the conversation is one other thing I did enjoy about Assassin's Creed Mirage, very general, is that the hidden ones are starting to feel more like assassins.
Yes.
That, I'm curious as to when they intend on transitioning the narrative from Hidden Ones and the Order of the Ancients to Assassins versus Templars. I'm hoping it's relatively soon. But I do think that kind of correlates to what I was saying before, that they could kind of scrap some of those other future projects, take a step back, and maybe reevaluate Assassin's Creed going forward. And with that being said, and transitioning into the next portion of this conversation, I don't know if you watch, I'm totally blanking on his last name, but his name's Jake. He's from Game Ranks. He personally made a video recently, and I'll link that in the description. And he was kind of discussing Assassin's Creed. He thinks, I don't agree with it entirely, but he said that he believes Assassin's Creed just should be rebooted in general. Like they should just start from scratch. I don't totally agree. I do kind of think that they could do a requel. And it's another part of taking a step back a little bit, but they can create a new, fleshed out modern day character, and make it to where they kind of like what I was saying before. Maybe this modern day character does have a very important ancestry tied to both assassins, hidden ones, Templars, so on and so forth. But instead of focusing so much on the pieces of Eden, maybe like the narrative starts with like, oh, they're going after this piece of Eden, but they discover all of these descendants and resurrected Isu. And so then we get more back into the whole thing I was discussing before about like knowledge and the discovery of the ones before from the perspective of someone in modern day who's just learning about it all.
Right.
And you don't have to go beat for beat just like Desmond, like someone who's kidnapped and someone who's like being brought back into the line. Like maybe she is an experienced assassin, he or she. I'm just saying she from the top of my head because I don't know, it's just how I'm envisioning it. But let's say this girl is an experienced assassin, but somewhere along the line, like maybe she's taking over for someone who's like in an animus or something, and they were like, whoa, something's spiking in your DNA, we're catching something. And someone's just a little curious enough to be like, what's her ancestry look like? And then they discover someone big in history, and maybe that's where Hex could start off, and we have not only an interesting character in an interesting country, an interesting point in history, kind of changes the narrative a little bit. Someone who's like an assassin that's like in the middle of like a witch hunt or something,
Right.
just to shift things around a little bit, and kind of go back to like the really gritty part of history and all the crazy stuff that actually happened that they can tell without making it so mystical and whatnot.
Right.
Try to hone back a little bit on transitioning into assassins and Templars again, while all telling a new story, but not having to start from scratch again, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Something I did want to pitch now that we're kind of talking about it, and I don't know if I'll be able to include this video as another pitch video, if I'm saying this, but I was thinking, so in my history with Assassin's Creed, for a recap, just for fun, I guess, you and I were introduced to Assassin's Creed through Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Right.
Our mom got it on our birthday, right after the game's release, and because she said she wanted to play the game, but she was like, but I want to try to play it. She played it once, couldn't figure it out, and she gave up.
And this is a woman who never played video games, was never interested in playing video games, and honestly gave a shit for wanting more video games.
Well, I do believe that she had some experience playing with Ronnie with Devil May Cry, but I think that's
Our
it.
older brother.
We ended up getting Assassin's Creed 2, and then we went to Assassin's Creed 1 by guilt tripping one of our dad's friends into buying it.
Yep.
And
it worked.
And our obsession with Assassin's Creed started. So we've been with Assassin's Creed for a long time. And part of our experience with Assassin's Creed is before I became super invested in the idea that I wanted to be a movie maker, I wanted to be a video game developer. And I always thought, oh, I'm going to join Ubisoft and I'm going to make the next big Assassin's Creed game. And we came up with we came up with 2 different modern day characters. We came up with, I think, a total of like 6 different ancestors between them that they would have and how they would like be crossed over with each other. But out of all of those, there is actually one of those ancestors that I think would work very well.
Can I just say we put a lot of work for how young we were. We made literally
our history
franchise.
research.
We did everything to make literally the greatest content for Ubisoft to like make these games and for people, and these would be games that people would actually enjoy, not like Odyssey and Valhalla where it's like it just got shat on. Like, these are actual Assassin's Creed games that people would have fucking died for, and I'm not just like overhyping it. They were sick,
right? And that is very true. But there is one game, or at least one character, from all of those that we made that I think would still work very well.
You're about to be super biased, aren't you?
A little bit.
Aaron made a select few, and I put a lot of my attention into one.
Okay, no, that's true. But this one that I'm about to bring up is not my favorite of the ones that I made. Okay? I don't know if that helps a little bit.
No.
Okay, but this one not only would work like with the previous games that have already been established, but would also kind of work with that other little thing I just rambled about how they can start with a new fresh story and ancestry and so on and so forth.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember, and I'll briefly get into detail. Do you remember the character Martin that I made?
The Romanian?
The Portuguese assassin. Oh,
yeah.
You are right. He was Romanian, but the game takes place in Portuguese.
I always got it swapped. I thought he was Portuguese, but he took place in Romania.
He was a Romanian assassin but the game takes place in Lisbon.
That's right.
And the reason I thought that he would work so well is because if you remember, he was born to be an assassin, but at a very young age, he was taken by a Templar, I guess you could say brainwashed, so that he would be a Templar. He becomes an assassin hunter his whole life, and he's like remarked as the masked one because the game would start off and he's got a like very distinct leather mask that he wears. Then it doesn't take long for him to have like an epiphany, and the game starts with him transitioning back into an assassin, more with like the ideology of a Templar, but knowing that the objective of the assassin is like the right way to go.
Right.
And another thing that I really wanted to focus on, because it's something they pitched with Arno in Unity. I don't know if you remember, but very early into the announcement of Assassin's Creed Unity, they put out a bio of Arno. And the bio described an assassin that was like, he was born an assassin and he was like the most dangerous assassin. Nowhere in the game.
New breed of assassin too.
Right. And nowhere in the game was I shown a new breed or the most dangerous assassin. To me, he was like the wimpiest assassin. He cried the whole way through the game. It wasn't until like the expansion where he was a little bit more brooding, but Arno in the game was not the same assassin as Arno in like the cinematic trailers.
No, he was not. That was something I was going to bring up earlier. Arno is just Ezio. Okay. Hold on. Aside from the whole being a wimp throughout the whole game.
Okay.
Like, yes, the parkour was cool. We liked things about Unity. We've covered that. Arno was a wimp. We've covered that. But my dad died at a young age. Turns out he was an assassin.
No.
Because
Yes. Sorry, he was. I got mixed up for a second.
because my daddy was an assassin, I'm going to become an assassin. I'm going to be a dick in the beginning of the game, but because I'm learning my ways through the Assassin's Brotherhood, I'm going to become a humble guy.
And like Altair.
Who am I talking about? Ezio or Arno?
Also, like Altair falls in love with a Templar.
That too. Which was cool
Altair
because
actually marries a Templar, though.
they did like a Romeo and Juliet type thing, which was interesting. I think it was more interesting for Arno than it was for Altair, because for Altair it was like, I fell in love with the Templar.
But
we banged on that tower and we got married.
Yeah, and it also like happens in the lore. Like you see a fragment of it in Assassin's Creed 2, but it happens like in between games, and you don't.
And then
really
you see their marriage in like in Revelations when they're older. But that's it.
So with the idea of Martin, is that when he's born an assassin, trained a Templar, turned assassin. So he's very back and forth. But he's deadly. And
it's like a more complicated version of Shay Patrick.
Right. And so when you go into this game and he's got all these skills, it makes sense how much experience he has. They would give him like an arsenal of weapons. And I don't know if you also remember, another big like trademark for him to distinguish him from the other assassins is I wanted to give him like a plated arm.
Yeah.
So that like he had like a guard almost that he would use similar to a shield, and then his like signature weapon, like some assassins had, would be a broadsword.
Right.
So he would be kind of like, he would be very sleek, but he'd be strong enough and deadly to wield and like move this broadsword really quick.
Right.
Which I just thought was an interesting aspect of the character. But the way that the game was supposed to end is that he becomes a master assassin himself. He's getting into his later years. He's got his own guild. And like the post-credit scene is the fall of Lisbon that happens in Assassin's Creed Rogue.
Which is fitting because they're both like traitors.
Right. And whilst Assassin's Creed Rogue, like most of the Assassin's Creed games, focuses on pieces of Eden, Martin would be focusing on another resurrected Isu, or like a descendant of an Isu somewhere along the lines. So it'd be cool to have a character like that, and then maybe and then because I'm very interested and kind of excited to see what they do with Hex, he could easily have a descendant of somewhere along the lines or prior. I think the game would, I'm still kind of confused on when Hex takes place, but somewhere in the ancestry could be the Hex character.
That would be cool.
I am a little biased about the Project Red too, because people have been asking for a Japanese game for so long. But depending on how they do it, it can rather turn into another Ghost of Tsushima. They've also said that it's going to be the next RPG Assassin's Creed game, and I'm hoping that's not true. I'm hoping that maybe they'll learn their lesson from Assassin's Creed Mirage, and they'll be like, oh, maybe we don't need to make an RPG game.
I hope it's an RPG. And honestly, I'm pretty satisfied with the Japanese assassin that we got in Ghost of Tsushima. I'm sorry. Ghost of Tsushima was the Japanese Assassin's Creed game that a lot of people were looking forward to. It wasn't even made by the same company, nor is it an Assassin's Creed game.
I mean, there is still opportunity for the narrative to express a very unique game, but you're right. Gameplay-wise, it's just the Assassin's Creed Japanese character that we've been looking for.
No, yes, but I do remember our old characters. Man, now I'm going to be thinking about that. Dude, we spent so much time on those guys.
And you did bring it up because you and I do draw on our free time, and we both have art accounts. You did bring up going into this video, you're like, oh, we should have like drawn assassins to showcase in this video. But unfortunately, due to like time constraints, and I wasn't sure when we were going to be able to film this video, and on top of another drawing that I'm doing for Halloween, time-wise, it just wouldn't have worked. But maybe somewhere along the lines, or for my art account, if you guys do end up going to check that out, I'll draw Martin. Or I'll draw the other one I was very fond of, which was our Russian assassin, that we made.
So based on what we're doing for the next video, I thought it would be interesting for us to draw, because me and Aaron both thought that the outfits for Mirage were a little So we were each going to draw our own to be like, oh, this is what we think would have been cool for this specific environment, character, an assassin, all that jazz.
You know what? We are reaching the end of the video. A couple other points. Man, this is going to be a long video. This was a rather long kind of hot take on Assassin's Creed Mirage, I guess you could say. Overall, I would probably agree with giving it like an 8 out of 10. While it does fall short in many aspects, and it's not exactly what the Assassin's Creed fans were asking for, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that Ubisoft, sees this video, or they just take the notes that people have been throwing out there, and hopefully they just step back, look at what Assassin's Creed needs to be, and not try to throw games out there for the sake of making money and for the sake of making Assassin's Creed games. Because it's probably their longest running and strongest franchise to date.
Yeah, if it's not a Tom Clancy game, then it's Assassin's Creed.
But even then, I don't think there's a Tom Clancy line that's gone on this long.
Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell are probably the runner-ups, but I don't think they're...
Not even close. Splinter Cell does have a remake coming our way, hopefully soon. Mm-hmm. We haven't heard too much, but it is a faithful recreation of the original Splinter Cell.
I miss Splinter Cell so much.
So let's hope that's true, and let's hope that it is as faithful as they say. Halloween's coming around, and you guys will be seeing another video from me, hopefully, by the time, because this video will probably take some time to edit, and hopefully I'll be able to get to the Halloween one out on time. But is there anything you've got going on, or is there anything you want to plug in really quick?
Well, first off, go check out my channel, please. I'm desperate for views. Button. If there's a button, you always have to press it. I can also attract them to... Where? So the first thing I want to say is that I do have a couple videos in mind. I have a couple interview videos that I still need to do. As far as Assassin's Creed related, I was debating on making a video that was my pitch for at least the beginning, or like just a new Assassin's Creed. So I might do that. Who knows?
Stepping into my line of pitches there, I see.
Actually, this is one that me and you have discussed in the past before. Once I make money, I plan on buying a capture card so my videos aren't trash, and that I can start recording my playthrough of Assassin's Creed Mirage. So hopefully that will be coming soon. But that's basically all I've got for now.
Also, super quick, I do think that we should do this again after Halloween and maybe talk about Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Man just came out.
Yes.
We both just finished it.
Yes.
I am proud to say that I have 100% of the game. And as the only reason I'm not playing it is because New Game Plus is not out yet.
I know! I still might replay it.
But keep an eye out for that. That will probably come sometime around...
So excited.
The beginning of November.
So
we'll do
much to say about that game.
We'll do a 1 month after Spider-Man.
Yes.
And we'll throw out all the things that we have to say. Like I said, keep standby for my Halloween video. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I'm hoping that now is the time to do it. But Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was nice talking to you.
It was lovely talking to you.
I think we've been talking for about 2 hours now.
Just about.
So hopefully this video is not that long. But again, thank you again. And to all of my 2-legged, 4-legged, and even 6-legged friends, yes, I know you're out there. Please have a wonderful night, day, whenever you're watching this. Spooky season is almost over, and then we're going right into Thanksgiving.
Yee dog. Like, comment, and subscribe to this channel.
Thanks, Brandon.
And mine.
All right. I will talk to you later, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Wait. How'd you not have 6 legs?